That it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I.
Did you hear the latest news? Sophie Cunningham has boldly criticized WNBA officials, accusing them of failing to do their jobs and refusing to protect the league's biggest star, Caitlin Clark. That's exactly what happened. Sophie voiced an opinion that many people had been thinking but weren't willing to say publicly. According to her, the referees aren't doing enough to protect Clark. Instead, their lack of action is only making the situation worse and allowing the chaos to continue.
The officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls.
We've officially moved beyond the point of simply playing physical basketball and entered a situation that many would describe as complete disorder. The only reason things haven't completely fallen apart, according to this perspective, is that players like Sophie Cunningham are stepping up and taking a stand when referees, league officials, executives, and even the commissioner have failed to do so. She's doing what others in positions of authority haven't been willing to do, speaking out and making it clear that enough is enough.
For that. So what do you actually need to do to be ejected from the game in a W?
Sophie Cunningham isn't just putting together an impressive season on the court. She's also stepped into another role, becoming Caitlin Clark's unofficial protector while emerging as one of the most outspoken critics of the WNBA's officiating. After spending weeks watching her teammate endure hard contact, unnecessary physical play, and repeated fouls in nationally televised games, Sophie finally reached her breaking point and decided it was time to speak out.
Watch some of these plays, guys. Watch some of these plays on Caitlin Clark. Look at this. Look at this. See that? Grabbing, physically grabbing her, applying pressure, pushing her.
Afterward, rather than taking a cautious approach during post-game interviews, she chose to address the issue directly and openly criticize the referees. There was no attempt to soften her message and no reliance on the usual statements about needing to improve. Instead, Sophie delivered a much stronger response, directly challenging what she viewed as inconsistent standards and hypocrisy.
Oh yeah, Sophie Cunningham had enough. Folks, shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore.
It all began during what initially looked like a typical Indiana Fever game. Of course, typical takes on a completely different meaning whenever Caitlin Clark is on the floor, and every defensive possession seems to come with an extra level of intensity. By now, the sequence feels all too familiar. Clark attacks the basket, absorbs significant contact in midair, crashes to the court, and the officials keep their whistles silent. Then, on the very next possession, a much lighter collision involving an opposing player immediately results in a foul call. The difference in how those situations are handled has become a major source of frustration. This time, however, Sophie Cunningham was there, and she wasn't willing to let it slide.
Watch the steal.
Watch it. Oh,
Going coast to coast.
what's up there?
And here we got another breakers here as JC Sheldon goes right after
Blonde hair and the high
Sophie
heels fool you.
It was a hard foul, no
She
question.
got her in the headlock.
After yet another controversial no-call in which Caitlin Clark appeared to be fouled and hit the floor hard, Sophie Cunningham reached her limit. She immediately challenged the officials and demanded an explanation while the game was still unfolding. When her concerns were dismissed, she refused to simply accept the decision and move on. Instead, her frustration boiled over, turning the situation into a direct confrontation.
Anymore. We are going to start being the ones that say, you know what? We're not going to start the fight, but we damn sure will finish the fight. Sophie Cunningham, JC Sheldon going up for a layup, puts her head down like a running back, exploding through the hole. Sophie Cunningham wraps her up, tosses her little ass to the ground, says, "What's good?" And then Lindsay Allen goes after her along with JC Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham. Look at Sophie.
After the play, Sophie positioned herself directly in front of the opposing player, standing her ground with obvious determination and refusing to be intimidated. When the officials attempted to calm the situation, she remained firm. Her message reflected a frustration that many fans, commentators, and players had been expressing for quite some time. The officials needed to do their jobs more effectively. The confrontation ultimately resulted in Sophie receiving a technical foul, but that didn't seem to bother her. From her perspective, defending Caitlin Clark and speaking up about the situation was more important than any penalty she might receive.
Sophie Cunningham had enough, folks. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to get treated like a little sister anymore, like a little brother.
During the post-game press conference, reporters asked Sophie Cunningham to explain what had happened. Instead of avoiding the topic, she openly addressed an issue that many believe the league has been reluctant to confront. Her criticism wasn't directed at any one official. Rather, she questioned the officiating system as a whole. Sophie challenged what she viewed as a contradiction in the league's messaging. The WNBA frequently emphasizes fair competition, the growth of the sport, and support for women athletes. However, she suggested that those principles seem to disappear whenever Caitlin Clark becomes the target of excessive physical play. According to this perspective, repeated incidents in which Clark absorbs heavy contact without a foul being called cannot simply be dismissed as occasional mistakes. Sophie argued that when such situations continue to occur without consequences, they raise serious questions about consistency and fairness.
It never was before, and yet since she's joined the league as a rookie, she's been abused. She's been abused over and over again by these other players, and reportedly, it's a race thing that many black women inside the WNBA are resentful that this white woman came in and is getting all this attention. Nobody disputes that she's an amazing basketball player, but still they seem resentful.
After the game, it became clear that this wasn't just Sophie Cunningham expressing frustration on her own. According to this perspective, several current and former players have privately indicated that they share similar concerns. Coaches such as Stephanie White have already raised questions about inconsistencies in officiating, and the issue has become much more difficult to ignore. What may once have been discussed behind closed doors is now being debated openly and publicly.
He had to say. This past season, many people criticized referees for the amount of physicality that is a part of today's WNBA game, urging officials to better protect players who are subject to hard fouls.
The conversation eventually shifted to the issue of consistency, or what some believe is a lack of it. Sophie specifically criticized the officials for applying different standards throughout the game. According to her perspective, there were possessions in which Caitlin Clark appeared to absorb significant contact without drawing a foul. Yet on other plays, much less contact resulted in an immediate whistle. That perceived imbalance is what fueled much of the frustration. Critics argue that inconsistent officiating doesn't just affect the outcome of games. They believe it can also create potentially dangerous situations by leaving players uncertain about what level of physical contact will actually be penalized. The debate surrounding WNBA officiating has intensified, with Sophie Cunningham emerging as one of the most outspoken voices in support of Caitlin Clark. Critics argue that Clark's influence on television ratings, attendance, merchandise sales, and overall league growth makes the lack of consistent officiating even more concerning. Cunningham suggested that the problem extends beyond individual missed calls and reflects broader issues within the league's officiating system. Supporters point to repeated examples of heavy contact involving Clark and argue that inconsistent foul calls have damaged confidence in the league's ability to protect its players. The discussion has also expanded beyond Clark herself, with many fans and analysts questioning whether inconsistent officiating affects the entire league. Cunningham's willingness to speak publicly about the issue has earned praise from supporters who believe greater accountability is needed. For many observers, the central question remains the same. How can the league continue to grow if players, coaches, and fans lose trust in the consistency and fairness of the game?